Hello everybody, my name is Dee and welcome to Books and Quirks. Today I'm going to be talking about a couple of books that I finished recently and give you my thoughts on them. So I'll try to keep it short and sweet, but hopefully you can get a sense of whether you want to pick these books up. And I do want to say also that I'll put the timestamps below in the description in case you want to skip ahead to a certain review of a book. So the first book that I want to talk about is Lincoln and the Bardo by George Saunders. This book has been highly acclaimed. It was long-listed for the Man Booker. I think it's even shortlisted. I'm not sure. I can't remember now. And because so many people loved this book, I wanted to pick it up. And it is, historical fiction. It takes place in the during Abraham Lincoln's presidency in the mid-1800s. And it follows Abraham Lincoln and his son, Will. So I gave this book 2 stars. I did not enjoy it, but I don't want to spend more than a couple minutes talking about this because I think that I don't want to bash it, and I think that my opinion is really in the minority, and if you want to pick it up, I would really watch some other reviews out there for it, but I'll just spend 2 minutes talking about why I didn't enjoy it. So this book, like I said, follows mostly Abraham's son, Will. When Abraham Lincoln was president, his son got sick and had a high fever, and unfortunately, as happens sometimes in those days, he did not make it, and he passed away from his illness. And this book really starts with that. Will is buried in the cemetery and then is sort of left there as a ghost. He's able to, see his own funeral, and he is accompanied by all of the other ghosts in the courtyard, in the cemetery, rather. So I'm going to put this book down. I don't want to hold it up the whole time. So what I want to say is, this book is told through 166 narrators. It's told in a very unique format, and I think that's why so many people appreciate it. But it's told mostly through dialogue. It's the different ghosts speaking to each other and just reminiscing about their own lives, and also trying to help Will come to terms with what happened to him. Abraham Lincoln does surface a couple of times, but you don't really get much information on that. And the whole book takes place over the course of, I think, one night. And it's also told, parts of the book are also told through little snippets of different publications. But it's very hard to, for me at least, it was very hard to follow. I had a hard time even understanding through most of the book what was happening. The ghost, everyone's speaking at once. Some are speaking just a few words. Some are speaking, a few sentences, and they're not even really responding to one another at times. Sometimes they're just ranting and raving, and Will's kind of in the background. It didn't really have a whole lot of historical fiction, except that it does take place in the mid-1800s, but really you don't get a sense of that. Through a few, there are a few little snippets of interviews from soldiers and things like that, but that's very rare, very few and far between. So I spent most of the book being quite lost, and that is really why I thought, by the end I did finish it, but it really wasn't a book for me. I spent half of the book reading it, half of the book listening to the audiobook too, because I thought that might help me, but that confused me even more, I think. So, like I said, I would really go listen to some other reviews, more positive reviews of this book, because it is highly acclaimed, and I just don't know why I didn't connect with it and why there was something missing when I was reading it. But yeah, I think that you should take my opinion with a grain of salt. So that's all I'll say for Lincoln and the Bardo. I don't want to go too much into criticizing it. The next book that I quickly want to give my thoughts on are Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. This book has gone around BookTube quite a bit, so I don't think I need to go into too much detail, but I will say that I absolutely loved this book. I gave it 4 stars. There are some sad moments in it, but I loved it regardless. So this tells the story of a Korean family starting in the year 1911. It follows the main character of Sunja, who, when the book starts, she is just born. She grows into a young girl, and at age 16, she moves with her new husband and soon to be baby to Japan. And this story goes all the way to the year 1989, so it goes for about 70 plus years, and I absolutely adored this book. It shows I really learned a whole lot from this book. Things that I never knew. You know, I never knew that Japan took over Korea in the early 1900s. I never knew much about Japanese culture, or rather Koreans and Japanese culture, and how much of a second-rate citizen they were considered to be, and second class, and really just they really had a hard life. You know, whether a Korean during that time stayed in Korea, it was already a hard life with Japan having taken over that country. Then, of course, we know that in the 1950s, there was the Korean War, which separated Korea into North and South. And then, of course, you know, those Koreans that did flee to Japan were also very oppressed in a sense. So this book follows Sunja and her kids and her grandkids as the years go on, and it's just so wonderful. There were some heartbreaking moments in this book. There were also some uplifting moments in this book. I grew very attached to these characters, and this is also a very fast read. I want to see if Min Jin Lee has anything else out, because I would definitely read this author again. I just think the way she wrote was so fluid, and it just flowed nicely, and it was a page turner. You know, when I say this was a fast read, you know, I was reading this as a buddy read also with Cheryl of Sierra Flames Fan and Candace of Beacon Hill Books, and we all felt that, you know, that this was just a page turner, and you can get through 50 pages in no time flat. And I just can't say enough good things about this book. Now, I do want to say that the only reason I didn't give it 5 stars was that I did want a little bit more at the end. I wanted more for the main character. I can't really give specifics because then it will give spoilers, and I don't want to do that to you. But I hope if you're interested in Asian culture, if you're interested in like family sagas, I would give this book a try. I think that if you like those types of books, you would absolutely love this. And I remember this book first came onto my radar when I was watching Catherine of Cover to Cover talk about this book. Oh God, many months ago, I think it was. And immediately I put it on my list. And I'm so glad I got a chance to read it finally, pick it up, and I got a chance to read it with 2 wonderful people. And yeah, on the front it says, a rich, moving novel about exile, identity, and the determination to endure. And I couldn't have said it any better than that. And this is a beautiful cover. I know a couple of you commented this isn't the cover that most Americans have, but I bought it off of Book Depository because it was a little bit cheaper, and it is a gorgeous cover. So the last book that I want to quickly give my thoughts on are In the Woods by Tana French. This is part of the Dublin Murder Squad series, and this is a mystery, and I also read it with the same group of ladies, and I really enjoyed this, but I also had a couple of problems with it. So I wound up giving this book 3 stars. This follows a detective named Rob who is investigating the murder of a young girl named Katie. And through the investigation, there are some clues that links back to the disappearance that Rob was involved in 1984. He and 2 of his friends went into the same woods and just, hanging out, and two of his friends wound up disappearing, and he was the only one that returned, and he has no memory of what happened. But now, years later, as an adult, through this investigation, there are some clues that link back um, to that case, the case that he was involved in when he was 12. This book, really kept me engaged, and I thought the mystery was very well fleshed out. The problem was I had with or I should say, one of the problems I had was that I thought one of the mysteries overshadowed the other, and nothing really came of it. There was no real conclusion to it. So I was quite disappointed with that. I can't really go into details because, again, it's very easy to give spoilers with this. But this book also had a problematic main character. Um, there were certain things that he did and said and throughout the book that really made me dislike him quite a bit at times. Now, having said that, I was really engaged in the mystery, and I was really eager to get the conclusion to the book, and I was quite happy with at least one of the mysteries wrapping up. I will say that things happened, or things came to light that I didn't expect, that I wasn't really expecting at all, and I think that's the talent of a good writer. Like I said, I wished there were more. I wish there was more at the end. I wish we had more of a consensus of, all of the pieces wrapping up. But I do want to continue with the next book at some point in the future and see how I feel about that. I do want to give another book a try in this series. But I think if you like, crime fiction or murder mysteries, I would give this book a try. It is highly praised. I mean, it was a New York Times bestseller, and it's very well known, I think. So I would give this book a go if it seems like it's to your liking. So for these reviews, I really didn't write any notes, but I did want to give you my quick thoughts on those books, since I did finish them recently, and I hope they were to your liking. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you got something from it. And like I said, I'm sure there are a million other reviews of these books out there as well. But yes, that is all I have for you today. Those are my thoughts on those 3 books. And I hope you all have a wonderful day ahead of you.